I've touched on this a little bit. There's 3 ways where music can be used in any form of commercial sync. We can look at it from a commercial tracks point of view. So as in, you make a song, you release it onto Spotify, you get it played in clubs by DJs, it gets on the radio, etc., and then someone comes along and says, we'd like to use it in an advert, right? They have to they have to get the publishing and the master rights, but that song exists separately to the fact that it's been in a sync or been used in any other form. All right. We can do re-records. We've already kind of touched on that. Yeah, so maybe somebody's wanting to use a song, but they don't want to use the original version of that song. So you have to get the publishing rights. You have to ask permission in that space. But there is a brand new master recording, and that could be something that you could own. So there, as I said, there is fairly big business just attached to making reworkings, re-recordings of songs on behalf of advertising agencies and companies like that. And yes.
This is per song. These approximate payments, or maybe it's per project. It depends.
No, so you get paid for both sides. Remember. So if we quickly zip back to this. So if I want to use Hey Jude, I need to pay for the composition rights. I then also need to pay for the master rights, right? And those payments depends on how much your song is valued, how much you need. There's not like a fancy rate card for a lot of this stuff. There are certain areas of music that have had a rate card attached to it. But commercial music, it's if somebody says, I'd like to use your song in my advert, they're probably going to ask, how much do you want for it? And then it's like, well, how long is a piece of string in that sort of situation? But ultimately, you have to make loads and loads of decisions. Like, how much do you think it's worth? How much do you reckon you can get before they're going to kind of turn off from it?
Sets precedent, doesn't it?
Right. There's lots of different things. Like if I'm just talking, if I say, I only want your song is the only song that I want in my project, you're in a bit of a
winning
a good position to kind of start to dictate the price. But if someone turns around and says, right, we're looking at 3 or 4 songs, we really like yours, but we're also looking at these other 2 or 3, how much would you like for it? Then in your head, you're probably going, right, I probably need to be a little bit more competitive with how much I'm charging, and maybe even going lower than you potentially would do in order to guarantee the project. So these fees here are super broad and super depending on a lot of things. Yeah, it depends on what you need, depends on what you want. I'll give you an example. One of the last music supervision gigs that I did, the first track that the company asked for was Happy by Pharrell, right? It's quite a well-known song. They said, we've got a budget of X. I think it was about 15 grand they had. And I went, you're not getting Happy by Pharrell for £15,000. I went, do you have a rough idea? And I said, ballpark, you're probably looking at 150 grand for the composition rights, and then another 150 grand for the master rights, right? And they said, why? He doesn't need all that money. He's Pharrell. And I went, that's exactly the reason why he can charge that. Because if you say no, basically if he doesn't get that 300 grand, he doesn't care. So he can charge that. So the fees attached to a lot of these projects really come down to, what do you value your own music at? What do you need personally? What's your situation? Where's the money coming from? And what do you think the client, the people who are paying for the music, kind of want to pay? Because ultimately, you want people to come back to you. You don't want this to be I want to get some money and then run off and never speak to them again. So if you can get £1,000 here or maybe 500 quid there, and then get another gig and then another gig and then another gig.
It's paying for itself in a different way.
Exactly. Yes. So again, there isn't these are sort of the rough ideas. The point being here is that advertising is more lucrative than film, than TV, than computer games. And that's the key thing there, that it goes up higher. Budgets are usually higher. But then a film sync, for example, a piece of music that gets put into the latest 300 million summer blockbuster is going to cost more than exactly the same piece of music being put into a £1 million micro budget indie film. Yeah, those pieces of music have still been used. I've done this. I have licensed the same piece of music in a super duper cheap indie and a major studio film, and one's been £1,000 and the other's been 50, 60 grand. So again, there's nothing fixed about these fees. The point being is that there is value attached to them. Your songs, your rights, your publishing rights, your composition rights, and your master rights, your recording rights, are not valueless, even at this stage. Yeah? Try not to give anything away for free. The industry will demand that you do that. Do everything in your power to retain that little sliver of value, because it's always easier to go up from having value than to try and say, well, it was free last time and now I'm charging. That's a harder sell to have, because they'll just go, well, it was free last time. Why is it not free now? Does that make sense? I'm really passionate about that. I get really annoyed at the industry kind of just going, yeah, it's a race to whoever's comfortable to give their stuff away for free. And I don't think we should do that as creators, as an industry. All right? The other area, the last area when it comes to sync and music, is the whole area of bespoke music. Yeah, so writing scores for films, writing scores for TV, computer games, things like that. Does that happen here?
Got DBS.
Yeah. Cool. Has anyone had a crack at that? Nice. Computer games music is quite fun, because like, how much music do you think you have to make for a computer game?
In my experience, we made a lot, but it was often short.
Or really simple. Dynamically, it doesn't go all over the place. Yeah.
A lot of it's layered on top.
Right, yeah. Like decent computer games now, they have like 20, 30 hours of gameplay, right? You're making a 30-hour score.
Partly generated by the programmers.
Yeah, and it needs to be able to go in different directions depending on where the computer game's going. But the point being is, most bespoke music is still owned by you. Yeah, if you're commissioned to write a piece of music for a computer game, until you have basically been bought out, until that computer game's manufacturer have gone, right, we want to pay you enough money for you to say that you've transferred those rights over to us, the composition is yours and the recording is yours. And that's a powerful place to be in. I think quite a few places, like if you were commissioned to write bespoke for the BBC, you've obviously got the BBC just around the corner here, a part of that deal would probably be the BBC owns the song. They have their own publishing company, they have their own businesses to do that, and you normally have to go, all right, fair enough, but that could mean the difference between getting more work from the BBC and not, right? If you're working for little indies, whether it's TV, advertising, computer games, more often than not, they'll just license the music off you. They'll ask you to make the music, you keep the rights, but then they can use it kind of in perpetuity forever, however they want to, in conjunction with that, but it doesn't stop you from using it in other ways as well.
That was like, say if you sold a soundtrack of a game to one company, could you, in theory, just go to another game company and give them the same song?
Probably not.
Or is it kind of like agreement?
You'd probably have in the agreement, it would probably be that first games company have exclusivity for that track or for that score to be used in games. But for instance, if you met a young film director, for example, who really liked that score, there potentially wouldn't be anything stopping you from reworking that score into something for a film. Again, it's completely separate, different types of media, so that sort of thing. Yeah. But a lot of this, again, I don't want to kind of dwell on the finance sides of things, because I think but I want to kind of really hit home that thing of there is money to be made here across multiple places. Okay, you can earn from the publishing and the master rights, and as has already also been mentioned, you can earn royalties as well. So there's like residual money to be made further down the line as well. But obviously it's just keying that doesn't mean that suddenly, like next week, you can just go, yep, I charge £50,000 for my music. It's kind of, it's all relative, but the point being is that there is value there, and that's super, super important.